All right, we are finishing up Frankenstein week with our seventh and final film adaptation, Frankenweenie. If you haven't seen the first six parts of this series, maybe check that out. We look at a whole bunch of different film versions of the Frankenstein story. So I would have thought, and I did think before I started this project, that Frankenweenie would be the odd man out. Maybe Evan Costello, but I, Frankenstein, certainly took that distinction. So Frankenweenie, when I went through the numbers, I was a little bit surprised, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about Frankenweenie. So, the scientist, compared to the book, his name is Victor. He wants to bring his dead dog back to life. So he's not interested in creating life. He just wants his dog back. He works in secret in his parents' attic. We have no infidelity like we see in some other versions. I think it helps that he's a child, so he's not interested in that kind of stuff yet. He's not portrayed as mad or insane or anything like that. He does technically rob a grave, but it's of his own dog, so it's not quite as bad as the original Victor Frankenstein. Doesn't see himself as a god, doesn't regret his creation at any point. And while the original Victor Frankenstein in the book didn't do any other experiments afterwards, this Victor in the film is coerced into helping Igor, I think his name is Edgar Gore, Igor, with his fish, and then that in turn unknowingly to Victor inspires some other people to do some other experimentation and reanimation. So there's more going on. But he survives, unlike the Victor Frankenstein in the book. So for the scientist, we are giving Frankenweenie 6 out of 10 points. On to the creature. Now, the creature's pretty different because it's a dog, but let's see what we got. He appears 31% of the way through the movie as the reanimated dog, 27 minutes into the 87-minute runtime. Again, the creature in the book appears 16% into the book. And he's just bringing the dog back. He's not building a new body. He's not stitching together bodies of other dogs. He's just bringing his dog back. Same brain, same size, and mostly same appearance. We do have the electrodes in the neck, which are not in the book, but are from the 1931 film. Also, like the 1931 film, we have the method of reanimation being lightning, which is not specified in the book. The first motion we see is the tail, which obviously is not from the book because that creature didn't have a tail, at least not that we are aware of. The creature does not attack anyone, not violent at all, just a nice dead dog. Normal strength, normal speed. I don't think we have any fear of fire. He roams around town, but I wouldn't say that he escapes like the original creature does. He just kind of roams around and then comes back home. He's got the same kind of skills that he did before, so he doesn't seem to have lost any intelligence in the procedure. And he doesn't make any requests because he's a dog, but he does get a little bride, which is what the creature in the book requested, was a bride. And he survives the end of the film. I mean, he dies and is brought back again, but he's alive, more or less, not dead, at the end of the film, similar to the creature from the book. So for the creature, we are giving 6 out of 18 points. Supporting cast: Victor does not use an assistant. His father is not a baron. Both of those are accurate to the book. There's no Elizabeth in the film, but his neighbor is named Elsa, which might sort of be a reference to that, but she's also a reference to Van Helsing, so who's to say? He's got no siblings, no servants. Doesn't seem to have friends, but he does have classmates, some of which he seems to somewhat get along with. Edgar, the strange girl, Elsa, and some of the other ones. We don't have Professor Waldman or Crimp, but we do have his teacher, whose name I cannot pronounce. I wonder why they didn't use one of the original names. I wonder why they created a new name. I wonder if it's a reference to something that I don't know. And then he has the gym teacher, who isn't even given a name in the film, who takes over the science class later on. The dog, Sparky, doesn't have any real encounters with anyone until the end of the film. There are no victims from Sparky. He doesn't attack anyone. And this is a story that we see happen. It's not being told. So there's no listener that, or no one that is being told the story. So the supporting cast only gets a 3 out of 11. In terms of the setting, this all takes place in a normal house, but it only lasts a few days, maybe a couple weeks, not years like the original story. And as I mentioned before, the story is not being told, it's being shown to us as it happens. So, total score, in terms of movie accuracy, is a 16, which is second place? Second place behind Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So the second most accurate to the book. Who would have thought? Frankenweenie. Iconography. We've got the scientist brings the dead back to life. We've got the lightning. We've got the line, "You're alive," which is similar to "It's Alive." It's not quite the same, but it's similar. We've got the angry mob with the torches. And we've got the ending at the windmill. Now, it doesn't get a point for the creature because the creature is not the same kind of creature. It's not violent. It doesn't attack humans. So no point for Sparky there. So +5 in the iconography department. And originality, this is the first one that we've looked at that's made for kids. It's a kids movie. Taking the scary story and making it a little more palatable for young minds. The scientist is a child in the film. The creature is a dog. Now we get lots of references to other creatures and monsters. I'm counting all of this as 1 point though. We get the invisible fish, which is like the invisible man. We get Whiskers, who has some kind of reaction with the bat that becomes a vampire-like creature. We've got the rat that becomes a were-rat like the wolf man. We've got the hamster, I believe it is, that is mummified. Colossus, I believe his name is. The sea monkeys, it seems like they're referencing both gremlins and Gillman, which is the creature from the Black Lagoon. I think they're trying to do a 2-in-1 there. And then Shelly, the turtle who becomes gigantic, I thought was a reference to Godzilla, but upon further research, apparently there's a creature named Gamera, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, who's a giant turtle. So either way you take that, there's a reference there. And then his neighbor is Elsa Van Helsing, which is a reference to Van Helsing from Dracula lore. So lots of references to other monsters going on in this story, but I'm counting all of that as 1 point. Maybe that's a little bit unfair, because I think I gave Abbott and Costello 1 point for Dracula and 1 point for the Wolfman. But that was specifically because the creature was serving Dracula. That was 1 point. And fighting the Wolfman was a separate point. But this is just, other creatures are just kind of there. And then we get a happy ending for both characters. Similar to Young Frankenstein. And the town all love Sparky. I failed to add in that we had a reanimation. A second reanimation, which we did see in the British version, The Curse of Frankenstein. So I'm going to have to add on a point to what I have got here. But let me grab my standings and let's see what we've got in terms of accuracy to the book. We've got 16. In terms of iconography, we've got 5. And in terms of originality, I'm going to bump that up to 6, which means our total, I believe, is 27, which is half a point shy of Young Frankenstein, which brings this in at 3rd place. If you wanted to count the creature, the iconography of the creature of the dog as half a point, you could call them tied. Feel free to make your own modifications to my system. I have no other notes about Frankenweenie. So let's go through the standings. Is there a way that I can show this and read it at the same time? I did not think this through. So if you're looking at a film that is accurate to the book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein takes that easily with 30 points. Second place is going to be Frankenweenie with 16, followed by Young Frankenstein with 11. Then the original Universal film, 1931's Frankenstein with 10.5. The Curse of Frankenstein, the British version with 10. And Abbott and Costello. Oh, I skipped I, Frankenstein. I, Frankenstein is tied with the Universal 10.5. That's not really accurate to the book, though. It just got some facts right. And then Abbott and Costello in last place with 7.5. If you want something that's just got a lot of the Frankenstein iconography, maybe you know someone that doesn't know a whole lot about Frankenstein iconography, you're going to get a lot of that in Young Frankenstein or the original Universal film with 9 and 8 points there. The British version next up at 6, Frankenweenie at 5. We've got a tie for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Abbott and Costello in the third place. I would say the Abbott and Costello one is going to give a better iconic pop culture idea of the creature. And then I, Frankenstein coming in last, because that's not even really Frankenstein. Come on. He's played by Aaron Eckhart. How grotesque can he be? And finally, if you just want an original, off-the-wall take of the Frankenstein story, then looks like your best bet is going to be Young Frankenstein with 7.5 points, followed closely by The Curse of Frankenstein. Then we've got a three-way tie between the Universal version, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and Frankenweenie. I, Frankenstein, coming in with the second to last place, and Abbott and Costello. Oh, that hurts me. Coming in last there. So those are the rankings. Feel free to pause and peruse at your leisure. Now, I don't know at the time of recording what order I'm going to release these in. I believe Frankenstein is going to be the third week of October, which means probably I've already done Dracula and the Wolfman. So keep an eye out for those. If I'm wrong, that means they're coming up later. But also, we've got The Mummy is going to be coming up. So, regardless of where this takes place, we've got another 7-way series showdown for The Wolfman, The Mummy, and Dracula. There's also going to be a 2-parter for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and taking a look at the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in the last on Halloween itself. So, regardless of where we're at in time and space, if you want to check any of those out, there will probably be links somewhere, most likely in the description, because that's the easiest place for me to put them. But that's all I've got on Frankenweenie. That is going to wrap up this Frankenstein series. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this film in particular, this series as a whole, or Frankenstein as a story, as a character, as a pop culture phenomenon. But that's all I've got. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Hey everybody, Sam Tom here. Just wanted to let you know that I have 2 channels. If you're watching my music content, I also have a movie channel where I talk about movies and TV shows. If you're watching my movie content, I have a music channel where I do song covers, instrument demos, things like that. So feel free to check that out. Obviously, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that YouTube stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.